everybody has a spot, and it's almost like you have to park in this spot or else somebody's gonna be offended.
If you're not into mini bikes, you probably hate mini bikes because it's so just like, what is that fucking loud ass racket? God damn it. I'm like, yeah, mini bikes, isn't it cool? And they're like, we fucking hate mini bikes.
Right. No, that's absolutely a thing.
In the back of Boys Life magazine, they would have things like stink bombs and silly putty. I just remember a picture of a mini bike.
And it's like, yo, Tommy said race for 1,000. He's like, tell him it's on. I said, what? He's like, just get in the car and follow.
Welcome to Small Block City, big stories from small engines. I am here with Milton. This is our new podcast, Big Milts. Be safe, stay dangerous. We're gonna be talking about all the latest and greatest stories from the streets, Compton, Texas, Florida, wherever, whatever's hitting the gram and the news. And I guess for this first episode, we're really just gonna kind of, introduce ourselves to you, to each other. We know each other from the past few years in the mini bike scene, but we don't know each other that well. And so this is going to be kind of get to know each other and, let our fans, our newly acquired fans, get to know us as well.
Right.
So Milt, let me ask you this, man. You've been around in the racing scene. Like what is your kind of, how did you stumble into, I know that you were into mini bikes, but how did you kind of get into starting to kind of find your way to Manville and all that?
Well, let's go backwards to what you just said. I wasn't into mini bikes. I actually didn't like mini bikes at all. I had a neighbor who would, and when I say a neighbor, this was at my sister's house. It was a kid who used to just ride his mini bike round and round the corner, didn't know him. Cool kid. He comes and stops one day. We had a bunch of go-karts, and he wanted to ride. And, we had no issue letting him ride. And, like I said, I had no interest in mini bikes. I had friends back in the days when I was younger who had mini bikes who had told me all kinds of horror stories about falling and having to use their hands to make the motor. It just seemed like too much work. So, I asked him to ride his bike. And I mean, day after day, week after week, I did it more and more until, I actually went and got myself a mini bike. So that's kind of how I, got introduced to mini bikes on a more hands-on level, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, and I think it's funny. It's probably is the case for anyone who's in LA, South Central, or Compton, or whatever. If you're not into mini bikes, you probably hate mini bikes because it's so just what is that fucking loud ass racket? God damn it! I'm like, yeah, mini bikes, isn't it cool? And they're like, we fucking hate mini bikes.
Right. No, that's absolutely a thing. You got a lot of people who don't understand it. And obviously noise, noise, people hate noise, and especially unnecessary noise. And to them, it's unnecessary noise. So it's once you get into it, hell, you hear them from a mile away and you start, it's like a sound of, oh my God, look, something's coming. And it's especially when people know that you're into it, it becomes a thing. So it's oh, look, there go your boys.
Right. When it's not your boys, it's the South Park episode where you're like,
you guys know that everyone thinks you're total fags, right?
right. Pretty
just
much.
So you understand, you guys are fucking gay and you're not intimidating anyone, just so you know.
Right.
But when it's your boys, you're like,
hey man, we roll how we roll, and if people are annoyed or intimidated by it, that's too bad for them.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, make some noise, motherfucker.
Yes, sir.
Awesome, man. So I guess I'll kind of give you my little, and it's funny because I kind of feel like, here's the other thing, is that I feel like everyone has this relationship with mini bikes, which is sort of that, at least if you're our age, when you're kind of mid-30s or whatever, 40s or whatever, these things have been around for a while.
A long time, yeah.
In my case, I remember just first even seeing a photo of them in a Boy Scout magazine. There's the Boy Scouts, Boy Scouts of America would have a publication called Boys Life.
Right.
And it would just kind of be some, comics, comic books, kind of, whatever shit that's going on with Boy Scouts or whatever. But in the back of the Boys Life magazine, they would have things like stink bombs and silly putty and little
boys.
little gag gift, things for teenagers, and I just remember a picture of a mini bike, and it was like mini bike kit, $50, and I have no idea what you would have gotten for like $50 out of I never ordered it, but it did still have that effect on me, like it was just like, wow, if I could only have one of those.
Right, yeah.
And I grew up in like East Texas, and so at least when I was much younger. So I did have friends in the country who had like go-karts and stuff. And that was definitely like literally, I mean, when you were a kid, it was like trampoline, go-karts, Nintendo. These are the things that would like make your fucking, your soul just light up.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I kind of feel like everyone has like this relationship with mini bikes it's like what I say is it makes for the best karaoke song. It's the best karaoke song is a song that you pick. Everyone forgot about it, but then when they hear it come on, they go,
"Oh,
this fucking song!"
Yeah,
and that's what mini bikes is.
Yeah.
It's like, wait a minute, I remember that exists, doesn't it?
Right.
And it looks super fucking fun. We should get back into that. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And like literally from like when I met, like G1 and Fat John and Clutch Gang, like that was their story. Like they were like, we grew up in South Central, and like we were riding, mini bikes and scooters and whatever. And then we just kind of, grew up, got out of it, forgot about it. And then all of a sudden we see him again, and it's like, oh, whoa,
right, yeah.
Mini bikes.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
And it is just like that because like I said, growing up with guys around me, like I said, I'm from Compton, born and raised.
Yep.
I have these friends everywhere who just come around and they, have a bunch of stuff going with these mini bikes. And like I said, everybody had all kinds of stuff, scooters and this and that. But again, the mini bikes were like the cream of the crop. So, the mini bikes being the cream of the crop, like you said, being a kid, you see it and then you don't see it and then you see it and then you don't see it. Being a child, you don't pay attention to maintenance. You ride it into the ground until it doesn't run anymore and then it's all right, whatever. And like you said, one day you're at your friend's house, you got a little bit older and, you guys are cleaning out his garage or, you're helping him do something. You look and it's like, yo, what's that? It's like, oh, that's my old mini bike. And you're like, mini bike? Like, damn, I forgot those existed. Yeah. So, and then you pull it out and you're like, yeah, well, why is it just sitting? It's like, well, it needs this and needs that. And it's like, as now you're a little older. It's like, maybe we should get that running again,
Yeah.
And like I said, I can remember, even from where I live right now around the corner, this is a real story. Mind you, I'd just be the one that was kind of sitting back and I'm like, I'm not too interested. Like if you get it running, cool, I might try to ride it, but it's not my thing. But again, you listen to these stories, you come around, you go home, see friends come back around, hey, such just fell on a mini bike, blah, blah. And it's like, again, for me, it wasn't a thing until I became an adult. So like I said, that 3-4 years ago, man, I mean, my world changed, it was like turned upside down.
Yeah, and so let's kind of get into the our worlds being turned upside down. So for me, it happened in basically like February of 2020. This is right before the world ended, basically.
Mm-hmm.
I was getting, I got a text from a director who I've worked with on a couple of things, always music videos, and I've always done drone for him on these music videos. He was just like, hey, like, I have an artist who wants to do, music video. He's like a DJ. He has this song about riding. It's just like riding, whatever. And he wants to do like a few different motifs of things that you ride. Like I think he was gonna maybe hook up with the Compton Cowboys, that whole thing. And he was like, yeah, and so we're gonna do a little tech scout and have a look because there are these guys that are in a biker gang. He just kind of said biker gang, and I was like, okay, like biker gang, Compton, all right. And he didn't say anything about mini bikes because again, I think a lot, to the public, they don't, like they don't even know to say mini bikes or whatever.
Right.
And so I'm like, yeah, I've shot a couple of things for Compton. Like I shot on I did drone for a series called Streets of Compton that was hosted by The Game. And I was just like, oh, this is like, that's awesome. I definitely want to do more stuff there. And like, it's Compton's iconic, whatever. And so I went down just to kind of go like scope things out, to go meet these dudes who are going to be background. We pull up to the driveway of G1's house, who's the president of Clutch Gang. And I just immediately was like, these guys look fucking cool. like whatever is going on here, like G1 and Fat John, these guys just look really, really cool. And then, when we walk up to their garage, we kind of see, oh, their garage is full of mini bikes. And I'm like, okay, not biker gang, mini biker gang.
Right.
And they're like, yeah, what's up? And they were just like really nice, really cool. And they're like, yeah, we'll show you the streets that we ride on. And, and this was like maybe like a, I don't know, maybe like a Wednesday or a Thursday, maybe it was a Saturday or something. And so, like we pull up to Karab and he's like, yeah, this is one of our streets. And if you don't see anything going on, you're just kind of like, what am I looking at? You know what I mean? Like it's a street. Like it's just a street. And then he's like, okay, we'll show you another one. All right, so this is another one of the streets that we ride on. Well, like we usually park right here, and he just kind of shows us like the typical Clutch Gang spot. And again, if Manville is not doing Manville Sunday Fun Day, you're just kind of like, what am I looking at?
Right.
Like this is
right.
I don't understand what you're showing me right now. You know what I mean? It's sort of like, yeah, okay, cool. I mean, again, for me at the time, I was just sort of like, all right, great. There's no power lines. This will be, the trees aren't too bad. This will be easy to fly in. So, all right, if they're riding up and down, like, this is a good street to shoot on. That's kind of all I thought. And then, then I think we might have looked at Anna, and then we went back to their house. And I just remember kind of like, even when I walked up to the driveway, I was like, I don't really care about what's going on with this music video anymore. Like, these guys, this is who I care about. Whatever they're doing, I want to know more.
Right.
And so we kind of like, yeah, all shook hands and then, the DJ, the artist, and the director left, and I kind of walked back to G1. I was like, hey, man, like, you got an Instagram? And so I just got the main Clutch Gang page Instagram. 2 weeks later, the pandemic hits. Everything shuts down. The world ends. Like, there's no music video. There's no nothing. Like, SAG and AFTRA were basically saying there's not going to be any work for the rest of the year. Like, we're just we're not working anymore. It's all over.
Right.
And so, kind of faced with that, I was just like, fuck, man. Like, this is getting, and I was living in downtown. So it was particularly kind of scary feeling. Like, living on a tall building. Everyone's freaking out about if you're around too many people and coming in contact with other people. And it's just, what's going on? What's going on? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'm getting the fuck out of here. So I basically just like, I got the fuck out of LA. I moved to Texas. My family's from Texas. So I was just sort of like, until all this blows over, like, I'm going to get the fuck out of downtown LA.
Right.
Which, I mean, on the one hand, I'll say I regret so much because it just would have been better. Like, we would have even had a better deal on rent if we had just stayed. But it's also another one of those things where it's sort of like, it's the butterfly effect. Like, I don't know if I hadn't left, would I still have sort of done what I ended up doing, which is that, like, 3 months later, we get offered this car commercial. Me and my wife, who I shot like the principal days of Clutch Gang with, we get offered kind of like the very first job. Like 3 months later, they're like, hey, we need you to come shoot some stuff for Polestar, which is like this Tesla competitor or whatever.
I remember.
And so we shoot all this stuff for them, and I just remember it was just such a miserable summer of doing nothing. Like, if you weren't in the mini bike scene, it was like absolutely miserable. Like, nobody did it. You just kind of like stayed at home and were just sort of like, I'm depressed and like, this is fucking awful.
Right.
And so because we had that opportunity, we're like getting back to LA. Like, I never, neither of us really wanted to leave. And so we're kind of like having that first, oh man, we're going to be back in LA. Like, let's do something.
Right.
And so I just kind of hit up, G1 on the Clutch Gang account. I was like, hey man, I don't even know if you remember me. Like, we met like one day and like, we were talking about doing a music video. Like, do you guys want to film? And he was like, oh, I remember you, man. Like, and yeah, let's film. And so G1 just started kind of like really producing the whole thing. Like, when I showed up, he had the whole gang there. Everyone was like ready. Like, they were just like on their game and they were ready for Sunday Fun Day. And like, that started things off, and then it just kind of snowballed from there. Right. And, what I thought was just going to be like a one-day shoot turned into like, this is my life now.
Right. So,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I totally understand that. So, speaking of like in pandemic time, I would say 2 years off. Pandemic time for me, I was wrapped up in like 2 jobs. the hobbies that I had prior to mini bikes, one of which I literally sold everything I had to go and get the stuff that I got. Uh, I was into guns and I was into RC cars, which apparently a lot of guys in the mini bike world just so happen to be in.
Yep, totally.
So,
there's
now,
this crossover of like mini bikes, like full size bikes, RC cars.
Yep,
There's something about it's just the kind of hobby thing out in this. It's like you're outside.
I think it's one of those things to where if you're into this thing, it kind of just translates. But you know, it translates because the people that you're around, if they go this way, if you're interested, you go that way. And if again, these are your friends and you create these bonds with people, you become interested in things that they're interested in, especially if you were already interested in prior to meeting them. So like I said, with regards to that, the way that I kind of transitioned, let's just say going into mini bikes, like I said, saw the kid, and I'm gonna give a little bit more context. His name is Ian, little kid named Ian. His father's name is Ian as well, so obviously he's a junior. Ian riding around the block, and like I said, I'll give you the step by step like I did before. I see the bike and I'm like, that thing's too little. I'd probably bust my ass. And I'm like, you know what? This is probably about 3 weeks after he's come around. Hey, let me see this thing. And I'm like, where's the brake? And he shows me this little half-ass piece of metal, and I'm like, what the fuck is this supposed to be? He's like, it's the brake. And like, what does it do? It's like it pushes against the wheel. I'm like, I don't know, bro. So I get on and I'm, barely baby.
Let's pause on the brakes. Like, would that even be considered a drum brake? Like, is that what drum brakes are on a full-size motorcycle?
No, you know what? You can't talk to me about the technical aspect of it because I don't know.
But it's just like, it's literally, if we were to describe this to someone who doesn't know what this is, it's just like a piece of rubber pushing against the tire.
Rephrase. The wheel is the rubber. There's a piece of metal that pushes against the wheel. So it's what's called a scrub brake. And the scrub brake practically stops the bike. But again, if you don't know mini bikes and you look at this thing, it looks like a weird contraption until you understand exactly what you're doing. So I literally had to understand it. My first time getting on, I'm patty caking with the throttle, and I'm like, barely giving it juice. I'm going just enough to understand what it is that I'm doing. I'm tapping the brake to see how it works and everything. I didn't go too far, turn around, bring it back to him. I'm like, I'm not sold, Next day he comes by, let me see it again. And I would say from there, at least every time he came by, I did just a little bit more and just a little bit more and just a little bit more until I find myself flying down the street on this kid's bike, enjoying myself. And I say, you know what? This is it. I went and Tommy is old school OG in the game.
Look, we just lock something in. We don't do all that talking. We lock it in. It's a big waste of time. We lock this shit in.
He had a bike. I was super cool with his brother Charlino, and his brother's like, hey, my brother I think has a roller. And I'm like, what the fuck is a roller? He's like, well, it's just a bike. No engine, nothing to it, no throttle, nothing. He just has it. And I'm like, I want it. He's like, well, I'll call him for it. And I called him. He brought it over. And when I tell you, I'm just your whole bike with no engine, nothing going on, you know what I'm saying? And I'm excited, and I'm like, what do I do? And Ian, Big Ian, actually was like, well, hey, I can help you out. We'll order this, we'll order that. Like I said, I had the go-karts, and I had already met Volts. So I would go over to him, get certain things done. So it kind of, those relationships began to build. And you start to meet certain people.
So how did you meet Tommy if you didn't meet him through the mini bike scene?
So Charlino is his brother.
Yep.
Obviously, we have friends around the corner. Again, I'm a Compton native, so it's not very many people that I'm probably not gonna know, so to speak. But around the corner at my friend's house, his brother Charlino stays next door to one of my best friends, and Tommy would go to his brother's house. I would see him. We were familiar. I didn't know what he did. I wasn't into it like that. It's just common. You know what I mean? That we would just talk. He and Charlino and I had a relationship with the firearms. He knew I knew a little bit about firearms. I would help him out, fix some of his stuff, so on and so forth. And Tommy would come by and we would chop it up with him just about random, stuff and things. So I was familiar with Tommy.
And I guess also we should back up and say that, like, for anybody who's not in the Compton world, like, Tommy is kind of like an infamous figure.
Get that shit on camera. Fastest nigga in Compton, you looking at him.
He's a hilarious dude. He's like
Tommy
he's kind of built a name for himself as like a shop now, and
Tommy is just one of those guys on the scene that you'd enjoy either you'd enjoy being around or you'd hate being around, because it's either one extreme or the other. If you sit in the middle, it's almost like you're just meeting them. So that's kind of, like I said, my introduction wasn't mini bikes. It was through his brother, but eventually it made its way around into mini bikes. And once we kind of figured out that, or once I figured out that I wanted to be in it, things start to just kind of, piece together. Manville, you spoke on how you got introduced to Manville. My brother and I we had these go-karts, and all we would do was just ride around the neighborhood. And it's like, man, we need somewhere to ride. And Ian was like, well, I heard about this place. And I'm like, what place? He's like, I don't know. It's in Compton somewhere where they ride mini bikes. And I'm like, well, let's load this stuff up and go out there. So again, we were loaded up one day, and it was early in the day too. And kind of like you said, it was, tumbleweeds flying. There's nobody out there. So I'm like, we sure we're supposed to be out here?
Yeah, it's any time before like 3 o'clock, and you're just kind of looking at like nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. So there was nobody out there, and we just so happened to offload. We're driving in a small section of the street, and little by little, one by one, people are starting to pull up, and bikes are starting to come out. And I'm like, okay, this is cool. We didn't stay out very long that day, because I think we had been out for about an hour before people started to actually come out. But we did start to see people, and flying up and down the street. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, these dudes are like really moving on these things. So I like I said, my introduction to Manville was just literally us, maybe 2 go-karts and Ian and his son's mini bikes. I didn't really ride his mini bike up and down the block like that, because I was more interested in the go-karts at that time. I did have my bike, but it didn't have a motor. You know what I mean? But it was just more so like subtle steps into it. And the more I saw, the faster it's a thing, bro. And either you're in it or you're not.
So talk to me about, you're kind of known as the guy you're the matchmaker. You're out there on the streets going, hey, you got a 70 mil, you got a 70 mil, race.
That is the way that my relation, or my character, I would call myself, started.
Yeah, I know I don't never really put myself on camera, but shit, I had to today. It's lit. Look at all these motherfuckers out here.
Tommy, this was a Tommy thing. Mind you, I'm new to Manville. I'm new to everything that's going on. I have been out there now a couple different times just to kind of see what was going on. And now I'm kind of regular with coming out and seeing stuff and things. I don't know what's going on, but now I'm more connected with Tommy because he realizes that I want to be in on it. So the first taste of instigating a race was him like, yeah, my bike is ready. I'm ready to whoop some ass. And I'm like, what are we talking about? He's like, racing. We race. And I'm like, race what? He's like, mini bikes. I'm like, okay, yeah, race, mini bike. And he goes into this whole spiel of, yeah, we bringing it out. And he's walking up and down the street. He's getting his bike ready. And I'm like, all right, so who do you want to race? He's like, hey, do me a favor. There's these guys over there. And when he pointed at that time, it was Most Wanted and it was Road Runners. And he's just like, yeah, go tell them I want to race. I'm like, who am I talking to? He says, it doesn't matter. Just go tell somebody I want to race. I mean, I've always been a person to just go and do stuff and things. So, I walk over to these guys. What's going on, guys? Tommy said he want to race. And I'm just verbalizing, and it's probably about 20 people sitting out there. Solo, of all people. Who are you?
And are they just like, the fuck you mean Tommy want to race? What the fuck you telling me that for, motherfucker?
Right. And that's practically how it went. And it wasn't a negative thing, but more so like, these guys are looking, it's like we don't know him. He's new on the block. So, it starts out with this guy like, who are you? And I'm like, I'm Milton. Tommy just told me to see if you guys wanted to race. He's like, so what are you, what did he call me, a mascot? He called me a mascot. And I was a little offended, and I'm like, no, I'm nobody's mascot. But, little bro told me he want to race. Like, does somebody want to race? And somebody behind him chimes in. It's like, yeah, he's more like a mascot. Like, we don't even know this guy, da-da-da. And, I'm like, look, dude, I'm just here to see if you guys...
Name names. Who's gonna say some shit like that? Name names.
So, Trey. Don't think I forgot. Trey. So the two
Trey
people.
D from Bomb Squad?
No. That
No.
wasn't him. Trey from Most Wanted. Or was it? I don't know if he
Okay.
was Most Wanted or Road Runners, one of the two.
Okay.
But like I said, I know that Solo was the first person to say something, and he was just more so like, well, you know, who are you and what are you talking about? And who's trying to race? Trey was kind of like, not per se behind him, backing him up, but, you know, people sit in groups, you know, and he's kind of like, yeah, this guy, you know, forget about this guy. So Solo's like, no. Like, you know, what is Tommy talking about? What does he want to do? Like, how much is he trying to race for? And I said, I don't know. I'll go ask him. He's like, yeah, I'll race him. And I say, yeah, no problem. So I go back to Tommy. I say, yo, he says he'll race you. Like, how much you want to race for? And this is where my interest really got piqued, because Tommy's like, tell him 1,000. I said, wait a whoa. 1,000 what? He's like, $1,000. I said, is he gonna go for that? He's like, just go tell him. I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. So I go back over there and it's like, yo, Tommy said race for 1,000. He's like, tell him it's on.
I'm adopting the kids for Christmas this year. Fuck it. You know what I'm saying? I'm giving back to the community, goddamn.
I said, what? He's like, yeah, just tell him it's on. Okay, so at that point, it's like, all right, now we're going through this whole idea of, I go tell Tommy grabs his bike, we all walk back over there. They're going over the specs of each bike.
What gear do you have in the front? 14? You know what I'm saying?
I
Yeah,
get
14,
look,
right? See or no?
look,
No, it's this shit not
look.
But
I give you two, and I get to go.
give him 3.
Or I give you, or 3, hey, 3, and we take off at the same time. Nah. You wanna wait? Yeah, I don't even get the bang off the line. No, I'm fucking ride like that.
Kyle, how much you weigh? Oh, wait, 160.
Hell no, you jumped the line.
And mind you, my part is done at that point, but at the same time, I'm still looking at the situation like, wait a second. This is $1,000 on the line for these little ass bikes? Are you kidding me? So I'm trying not to be the guy who's just so mind blown by this thing that I don't still understand. But, you know, I'm listening to the banter back and forth, and it's like, yeah, you know, we'll go to Anna and we'll do this and we'll do that, and it's gonna be this type of time. And I'm like, mind you, I'm just following, like listening. So when I get a chance and we're kind of, you know, packing the bike up, I say, Tommy, listen, what is this? What are we talking about here? He's like, yeah, we go to the other street. I'm like, what other street? He's like, just get in the car and follow. And Tommy is literally like a straightforward person. When his mind is on racing, he has no time for anything. Yeah, just get in a car. Just get in a car. Come on.
He doesn't need to explain. No,
yeah, he doesn't want to explain.
But that's kind of
shit.
But that's how it is with anybody. Like if somebody was new, they're like, "Oh, what's going on?" You don't need. It's like just get in the fucking car, man.
Yeah,
like, we'll show you. We'll show you.
But see, the thing is, I knew Anna Street because I had worked over there prior.
Really?
Yes.
This is always funny to me. Is like if anybody's like, "Oh, I just worked on Manville." Or
Right,
like,
right.
Manville yards where it works.
Yeah, so
I did
Anna,
security.
it was 3040 Anna Street that I worked on. It was called One Stop Internet. So them saying Anna Street, I kind of already knew where it was and all this other good stuff. But mind you, same thing. I have Big Ian and Little Ian with me. We're all together, should I say? Not with me, but we're all together, separate cars and all this good stuff. So now we're trailing and we're following these guys to go to the street. In typical fashion, kind of like what you said, everybody has a spot. And it's almost like you have to park in this spot or else somebody's gonna be offended. So, you know, I pull up and I park and, you know, one of the guys from what, you know, Tommy, who used to hang out with, yo, don't park there. That's such and such as, you know, they park there. And I'm like, all right. So I went and moved my car. And the funny thing about it is where I moved my car to, I still park there to this day. It's like, mentally, that's my spot, so to speak, you know? But
yeah, I mean, listen, it is, Anna and Manville is a little bit high school cafeteria.
Definitely
right?
high school cafeteria. Definitely high school cafeteria, because again, if you go out week after week, it's the same place, the
like,
same people.
Sorry, there's no space in this parking lot.
Yeah. It's literally just like that. And like I said, you learn these things amongst the racing. So however it goes now, then you learn about flaggers. And they were trying to figure out, well, who's gonna flag? Or well, who's gonna hold the money? Or well, who's this and who's that? And mind you, this is where everything and everybody comes out in the woodworks. And it's like, all of these people now have something to say. And it's not just the two camps of people who are racing. This is people who were way down the street and, you know, back on the opposite side. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, like, who is this? Oh, that's
So
such
everyone
and such.
all of a sudden crowds around, and now
Yeah.
everyone has an opinion.
Yeah.
On Milton, what is flagging?
So flagging, again, is just kind of like one of those things, you know, at the beginning of the race, you know, in typical fashion. So we'll use Texas. Texas use the drop lights. I mean, obviously everywhere uses drop lights. Doesn't matter where you go to race. But when you don't have lights available, you have flaggers. That means that there's a person that's checking in with both the racers to make sure that they're ready. Once they stage and prep, then it's kind of one of those, you know, I'll check in with the racers. Are you ready? I get a head nod, yes or no. If I get a no from the first person, I'm going to step back up and kind of like let everybody, you know, do their prepping and continuing on. But again, you know, flagging is just basic check in with the racer, check in with the racer. You know, you're going to point, and then you're going to drop your hands, and then boom, these guys know that it's racing. The idea behind holding the money kind of comes down to this thing. It's a middleman of not his crew or my crew, but just a person of trust.
Yeah, this will go nice in my Grand
Like my
National.
pocket right there.
This will go nice to my Grand National.
That's holding the money, so that way if there's a discrepancy, if there's something going on, so on and so forth, that money is here. We both know that money has been locked in to one person. So again, if I'm holding the money, it's my responsibility in my pockets. I'm watching everything from that point on happen, so that way, you know, if somebody jumps off the line, I understand and know what's going on. I can kind of call it out. If you know, something happened that wasn't supposed to happen, and you know, there's a no, we need whoa, you know what I mean? I kind of watched everything happen. That, you know, I'm gonna hold on to the money. So that's the whole idea. Is just holding on to the money is just making sure that it's not, you know, oh, you know, Daniel said I'm gonna have my money and you're gonna have your money, and then when something goes wrong, yeah, I'm not paying you. You know, that whole thing.
So once you got somebody holding the money good.
Money is good. Money is locked up. There's no getting out of that race. If you decide to walk away from that race, that money is gone.
Take it back to Big Belly, goddamn. Send it back to the charts.
Tell me, what are some occasions where a race doesn't actually happen, but money gone? Somebody loses the money.
Money gone race. You haven't seen this much in big pots, but we have seen it in tournament styles. So again, what that looks like is, let's say I pull up to the line and my bike isn't, if I can't get it to pull start, if the starter nut isn't working and it's not turning over, you know, my carburetor is trashed out and it's just not starting my bike.
Yeah, we're for real too. Sorry. He got 1 minute left. I ain't mad at you. They got 1 minute.
That's it. 2 minutes. All right,
That's it.
My chain popped, I can't get it back on. You know, small minor things like that can stop a race. And again, once the money is locked up, it's locked up. You get a certain amount of time to get it right and get it ready. And if you're not ready within that time, money gone.
Money gone.
Yep.
So have your fucking bike ready. Do
Have it
not
ready.
put your money on the line unless you got an A1 race bike
Absolutely.
that's ready to go over 90.
And again, that's big money racing. I mean, we have small time racing where you have people who have a ride out bike who's pretty fucking fast. You know what I mean? We know guys with 70-mile-an-hour bikes that do not race, but you know, it's not fast in a race world. But when we talk about ride outs, yeah, that thing's pretty damn fast. And every now and again, you know, you'll catch a guy who will come outside and it's like, hey, you know, I'll race that bike because they know, you know, the bike that they're looking at is about either as fast as theirs or, you know, may not quite cut it. You know, I got $20 on it. Oh yeah, and then you know, you get a good fun run. So when you talk about it, you know, my introduction to all of these things, that's how I really started. After that Tommy race, when I tell you head first, I loved it so much to where every Sunday I would go out. You know, this is where I'm now learning about, you know, what a standard bore is, what a 2.8 is, what a 3-inch is, you know what I mean? And once you start to figure out what these things are, you know, at this time when I came out, there were crews everywhere. The blocks were lined for days and nights. And I mean, it was just all fun, dude. So yeah, I kind of, made a name for myself just moving around. I would just go crew to crew. I introduced myself, I'm Milton, so on and so forth. And I had a bike or two myself that I used to, man, when I tell you, that's another thing. I thought I was fast until until I got out there. I used to ride my bike
until
up
you found out that 60 is fucking slow.
Yeah, 60 is so low. And listen, and that's exactly what my bike was doing, 65, 60. And I'm 250. So that's pretty fast for me. And I'm flying up and down Central. We get out to Manville. I'm talking trash, and then I'm seeing these bikes, shoot up the block, and I'm like, Jesus Christ. I have no idea what I got myself into. But yeah, like I said, going backwards, that's how I got into it, man. I just start going out and, what bike do you got? What bike do you got? You guys want to race? Come on, let's race. And again, those were I did a lot, man, a lot of $20 races, $30 races, $50 races, even $100 races. But, once you get past $100, then we're talking big money. You got some people, let's go 3-inch. You're not racing the 3-inch for less than, back then, I would say, I think the smallest would be $300-400, $500, and I mean, these are, $800, $1,000 pots, $600 pots, like these guys were really, really in it. And I mean, we had a lot of fun. And back then, I mean, there were consistent races. There were a lot of tournaments, so yeah, like I said, I made my name kind of moving around these guys and just, and again, I did it the right way. I've never been an asshole with anything that I've done. I've always been a respectful person. So again, obviously everybody doesn't know me, so I have to go and say, hey, what's going on, man? So on and so forth. I'm Milton, so on and so forth. And it's funny because obviously I just call myself Milt. And then, certain people just started, hey, what's up, Big Milt? What's going on, fellas? Well, what's up, Big Milt? Yeah, what's going on? So I just kind of adopted, it's like, yeah, I'm Big Milt. You know what I'm saying? Because again, people didn't see me as, a person who was, out to try to race to take money. They saw me as a facilitator at that point in time. And again, there were certain things that I think that they were missing out there, which was a cooler head who didn't have an alliance to just any one person or any one team. And it allowed me to kind of move freely through everybody, creating good relationships, helping people get the races that they want, being a trustworthy person, holding the money for people, so on and so forth, unbiasedly, you know what I mean? So that was my total introduction to everything and everybody. And, even then, Tommy hated it because he wanted me to be no, you're mine, you're my person. And it was like, bro, I love you. You're going to always be my little bro, but I have to, be my own person, and a team. I love a team. I mean, everything, it takes a team to make things work always, you know what I mean? But at a point, the type of person that I am is, I know what I expect of stuff and things and people. So I'm more of I'd rather do it myself. And if somebody can get on board with me and try to see the vision that I see and how I want things to go, then I'll go that route. So, I got a lot of influence from a lot of these crews around, the sticker thing, the merch thing, all of these things. And it's like, damn, this is dope. So I just kind of took a little bit of this and that from everywhere, man. So yeah, it's been a thing.
Yeah, and I mean, it's something that I definitely learned very, very quickly when it came to making the film, is that like people view clubs and they take the hobby of mini biking as serious as like a sport.
Mm-hmm.
And like you can't just, like, the same way that like real avid sports fans, like if they see you kind of like jumping teams, like you're a Giants fan today and you're a Dodgers fan tomorrow, it's like, what the fuck? You're not allowed to jump teams.
Right.
And so for people like me and you who really are kind of like, listen, we are fans, but we're also kind of like officials, or I'm like the sportscaster or whatever, like I'm, like, you're more like a ref. It's like, we're not, they have a hard time kind of wrapping their head around, like, listen, we're not changing our allegiances. We're a fan of the sport in general, but we're going to move around and we're kind of a fan of everybody. We have our haters and we have people that we hate.
Right.
but at the same time, it's like, we're kind of like, we're free agents.
No, absolutely. In life, I mean, whether it be a hobby, a job, anything, you move around. Like I said, it's funny because I say this at work because I lead at one of my jobs, but I tell people you are how you are at work at home, straight up and down. And anywhere that I go, I just so happen to be a leader. There are people who like it, there are people who don't. And anybody who doesn't like me doesn't like leadership. They think that they have it, you know, for themselves. And again, I'm nobody like, again, I don't mind. I work well with other leaders. You get what I'm saying? So on the mini bike scene, I don't think I can say that I hate anybody, but there are some that I don't like very much because of the way that they do business and different other aspects of, you know, how they kind of get around. But hate, that's a bit of a strong word, but you know, dislike.
I don't hate anybody either. I'm throwing that term around.
no,
because
absolutely.
That's what people say.
Very loosely. And then as far as allegiances go, you know, you build your allegiance just based on, like, again, appreciation for personnel. I'll give you one person just in general. And I love this dude to death because I don't even, and again, it's almost like me and you. I don't even know how he and I just start talking. I think I was standing around one day and I just, you know, we just started shooting the shit and he was just super cool. His name is Boo Man. Boo Man just so happens to be one of the like most laid back dudes around. And like I said, even when I went over for the very first time, I remember seeing him leaning up against his truck, didn't say very much, just had like this little smug ass smirk on his face, like, who's this guy, you know? And as we started to talk, it was a natural growing relationship. We just shooting the shit back and forth, stuff that we like, stuff that we think about, what's going on, so on and so forth. And I mean, that was just our relationship that just blossomed. And you would look at it from then on, it's kind of one of those things to where I would go and hang out with them. Also, funny enough, I had a friend who I used to roller skate with. I think I showed you some of my videos of roller skating. Uno was out there, and I used to ride by in a car and I look and I'm like, damn, I know that guy. I just couldn't remember from where. And the more I got down there, like I said, I'm talking to Boo Man, and Uno just so happens to pop up one day and he's like, and I'm like, yeah, I knew you from somewhere. He's like, yeah. You know, we slap hands and you're still trying to process where you know these people from. It's like, I got it. You used to skate. Yeah, I'm from Compton. Oh, yeah. And we just kind of, you know, that whole back in the days. And like I said, Uno, I had a lot of, you know, passes with him back in the day, a lot of different stuff that we got into, fun at the skating ring and stuff, but always a cool dude, you know what I mean? So it just made it kind of easy for me to migrate into that section of people. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, a lot of people would look at it and be like, oh, you from, you know, over there? And it's like, nah, you know? And even them, you're like, oh, you might as well join us. No, in the most, you know, friendly way possible. And they know I love them to death, but it's just like, I'd rather be my own person. You know what I mean? Every crew, everything they've got going on, I love everything they got going on. But I think to join a dynamic that's already been set for me has always been a thing. With Tommy, it was a little different because we kind of created something, you know what I mean? And I think that's kind of where our, you know, maybe difference kind of came in, because that was a me, him, and Jay-Z thing. And it was like a good thing that we had going for a while. And then I, you know, like I said, you start spending so much money in this damn, you know, hobby. And I mean, when I tell you my first year in mini bikes, somebody's gonna look at this and be like, oh, that's where the money went. I would dare say over $10,000. But I can say that at least half of that came from prior hobbies. So one thing that I did do coming into the mini bike hobby was,
you like moved your
was a trade-off.
Resources
Yeah.
around. You liquidated some things and then turned some guns into bikes.
There you go. It was more so my RC cars, man. I had some of the biggest stuff out there. I didn't have fast stuff. I just had like the big X Max and the Outcast, and these are things that are $900, you know what I mean, $1,000 stuff. So it's like, yeah, grab one, sell one, get this, get that, and you'll never get the full amount of what you paid for stuff. You know what I mean? You can get as close to it as possible. So yeah, I moved around a bunch of stuff, and like I said, when I tell you I was burning money thinking that I wanted to race, and it just wasn't panning out for me. And like I said, the persona that I took on made it a little easier for me, because, you know, it wasn't focused on racing. It was more focused, or when I say me racing, my bike, it was more so getting the masses to race and getting those people to come out and see how things were going, and, you know, setting things up. It made me feel better than trying to get my bike fast, you know what I mean? Because again, man, I commend the guys. Number one, I commend the jockeys, because they are on these contraptions that are, oh my God. very well built, one, but if you don't know what you're doing, you have some people who have this mindset that, oh, I'm great, and they are trash, absolutely trash. And then you
It's
have
also
these.
just like listen, man, I have ridden, I'm going to say I have probably cracked 85, but it's on a 1,000cc bike that weighs probably 1,000 pounds.
Right.
And
Yeah.
and like it just provides you all of this stability. And I've done it on a freeway on the smoothest streets where you know that you have, you know, like 25, 30 feet on each side of you, like, and you're built on a bike that's supposed to go that fast, man. When you can't, when you're going, you know, 80, 90 on a mini bike, you can't let off the throttle too fast or you'll get the speed wobbles. Like, you have to, like, it's so delicate.
Absolutely. And that's why I say I commend those guys who are on those bikes going that speed, that the 105s, the 103s, the first to hit 100, shit, 80. Like I said, I mean, me being a bigger guy, I think we went out one time and tested, and that was me, Tommy, and Jay-Z. I think Tommy clocked me at 77, 76. And when I tell you, I felt like I was going 100 miles an hour. I was like, yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I don't want to go no faster.
Like, anybody who knows, like, a mini bike, 30 feels like 60, 60 feels like 120.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're so close to the ground, you can just see the asphalt going.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
And the falls, man, you know, you know, it's a different something. So again, jockeys, you know, get a big thumbs up from me. The builders of these frames, a major thumbs up. GTs, obviously, everybody is more than familiar with. You got Fastlane producing theirs now. You got BAMs. You know, you got all of these guys building these bikes. And back when I started, you didn't have a lot of people making bikes or you know, making frames, because you have to take into consideration crashing. You get what I'm saying? And, you know, there is a blueprint for a lot of things. And as far as I'm concerned, like I said, I know that there are way more frames that have been made and that are out there into the world, but I'm talking about just my introduction into, you know what I mean? And then learning about everything else. Now we get into, you know, like I said, coming from just wanting to ride a mini bike to understanding what racing is, you know, wanting to race, and then just, you know, actually now setting up the races and this and that. You know, it you know, you look at things very differently, you know, just kind of in stride with everything. So it's a thing, man.
I think that's a pod, man. I think we did it. We had our first Small Block City podcast with a like epic opening guest.
What it do, good people? My name is Big Milt. You can find me at _stay dangerous1.
And then I am, of course, Daniel Jarvis. Subscribe here on our YouTube channel, Small Block City. Follow me on Instagram, Small Block City. Like, subscribe, comment, post the shit on Facebook, send it to your fucking grandma. You know, follow me on Instagram, and we will see you soon.